I sure did. Boy, I like it here. I want to live here forever. A farm of my own. Cows! Poor folk can't get things like that over in England. You can't hear. Their heads were close together. Pumpkin, glancing nervously about, picked up a heavy hoof and began cleaning it with his jackknife. Sometime I've got to trust somebody. Make a break for it. Might as well be you. And now. But if you're caught, you'll get shot. I'll get shot? Hell, what do you expect in the army? Look here, I can get those clothes. Bring them up here. Hide them in the hay in the barn. Scylla will tell you when and where I put them. I can get in touch with the Lexington farmer who comes in every Thursday for market. He'll take you out. I'll tell Scylla and she'll tell you, and then you'll be free. Never hear another sergeant yelling at me as long as I live. A farm. Cows. That's it. And good land can still be had here for the clearing of it. I'm no soldier. I'm a farmer. I hate the smell of gunpowder. What I like is manure. But just one thing, Mr. Pumpkin. I'll do all that for one thing. I want your musket. For a friend of mine. Can you hide it in whatever place I decide to hide the farmer clothes for you? I could do that. Before Johnny's mother died, she had made him 4 smocks. She made them so large she believed they would last him through his indenture, but he had never worn them. Farmers wore smocks, as did teamsters, porters, butchers, brickmakers, but not silversmiths, nor printers, and never a horseboy. He had not ever put one of them on. He looked down upon smocks. They were not the fashion in his trade. He took one of them from his sea chest in the attic. It was a fine light blue. He had never noticed before how beautiful was the stitching, and it hurt him to think he had been too proud to wear them, for now he was old enough to appreciate the love that had gone into their making. How little his mother had known of the working world to make smocks for a boy who she knew was to become a silversmith. She hadn't known anything, really, of day labor, the life of apprentices. She had been frail, cast off, sick, and yet she had fought up to the very end for something. That something was himself, and he felt humble and ashamed. A hat and an old black wig were not hard to find. He sewed them together as best as he was able. There was a pair of Uncle Lorne's old breeches Aunt Jennifer said he might have, but he confided only in Rab. Rab must see to it that the uncle who every week smuggled out copies of the Observer also took out the British Deserter. 10 days later, Scylla told him the farm clothes he had hidden in the hay were gone, and Pumpkin had left behind him his musket and uniform. The musket was smuggled out to Lexington by Rab's uncle. It was lashed to the tongue of the wagon so cleverly it never showed. But the British deserter did not show up in his blue smock and false hair to ride out of town with Rab's uncle. He seemed to have completely disappeared. At first, the British were much excited and searched Boston from end to end. When Pumpkin had been gone a week, Johnny stopped worrying about him. Doubtless he had found some other way of getting out of town. Rab did not say much when Johnny showed him the musket he had got for him, but his eyes glowed. Johnny, trained in a silver shop to do such work, made a bullet mold. Together, at night, behind locked doors, they cast bullets. From where they squatted by the hearth in their attic, they could hear the carefree laughing, singing, and sometimes drunken quarreling of the officers billeted at the Afric Queen. All over New England, people were casting bullets. There was little lead. Women were taking their beautiful pewter from dresser shelves, stoically watching it melt in crucibles. Porringers, tankards, spoons, teapots were being reformed into bullets. Aunt Jennifer herself gave Rab her pewter. Much of it had been in her family for 100 years. She loved her pewter, but she stood dry-eyed and looking, for her, a little stern as she saw it disappear in Johnny's crucible. Gunpowder was even harder to get, but all over New England, saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal were being ground into a paste made into gunpowder. It was going to be needed. Each Minuteman made his own bullets, and then his cartridges to fit his own gun. The powder and ball were rolled up in a paper cylinder. Uncle Lorne contributed bound copies of sermons to be torn up for paper, but this paper was too tough. The soldier had to bite the end off his cartridge before he loaded his gun. Half the powder was poured into the pan. The rest of it, and the bullet, and the paper were rammed down the barrel. The sermons were so tough that not even Rab's strong teeth could get through them. Luckily, notepaper was more delicate. Scylla collected a basketful of notes that the British officers had written Miss Lavinia. Rab's bullets were wrapped in an assortment of invitations to balls, protests of undying adoration, crude sonnets comparing her to Diana and Aphrodite. Once Johnny recognized Stranger's schoolboy hand. From now on, when the men drilled at Lexington, Rab would have his box full of cartridges and, as he said, "Thank God, a decent weapon in my hands."